afternoon. It's Wednesday. It's my dad's birthday. I lost count. I think he's about 150. I could be wrong. But at any rate, today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Pop. Okay, today we're going to talk about foam. We're going to talk about a rigid foam, and we're going to talk about flexible foam. You will see the differences, but you will also see the similarities, and hopefully you will see that this ain't hard. So, okay, first off, like I said, you got rigid stuff, you got flexible stuff. Rigid. Flexible. See? Okay. Chemicals, that's all it is. This is Flexfoam, what's called 8. Flexfoam 8. All right? That's what this stuff is. It's an 8-pound density foam. Okay? This stuff is foam at 15. Okay? Makes a nice hat. Okay. It is a 15-pound density foam. Now, I'm already throwing numbers around, so let's hit the math first off. When we talk about an 8-pound or a 15-pound or a 3-pound or whatever, what we're talking about is the density of the foam measured in pounds per cubic foot. Okay? Muy importante. The bigger the number, the heavier the foam. Also, you want to look at it the other direction, the smaller the number, the more it's going to grow. Okay? So if we were talking about a 3-pound density foam, 1, 2, 3, and we were using foam at 3, let's say. Okay, I happen to know for a fact that foam at 3 also happens to be a 2-to-1 by volume. So a kit of foam at 3 is going to look like these 3 containers with different words on there. Okay, 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. If I mixed up those 3 containers, okay, and I just let it go, and then I cut that block up and jammed it in to measure what final volume I created, I'm going to create a cubic foot. Okay? Now, a cubic foot is 12 by 12 by 12. I think I did that right. So 3 times 12 comes out to 1,728. All right? To give you an idea how big that is, this would be a gallon, right? So, real simple. 1, 2, 3. Got lots of room, right? Lots of room. This gallon is 231 cubic inches. I think I got that number right. 231. So if you want to play around with mathematics there, and you take 1728 and you divide it by 231, what do you get? You get a lot. Okay? So these 3 little containers are going to make up somewhere in the general vicinity of 7-ish gallons of material. Okay? That's called a washing machine accident. Okay? Great fun stuff. So that is that. So that's 3 pound. We go to 15 pound or 5 pound, would be another way to look at it. It's going to take all of those to make up that same volume. Okay? If we go to 15 pound density, which is what this stuff is, okay, it's going to take 15 of these guys to make up that same whole bunch of volume. All right? There's some math in this. It's not scary math, but here's the important numbers. Foam's measured in pounds per cubic foot, okay? That pounds number implies how many pounds of stuff it takes, liquid stuff, to make up 1 cubic foot of cured material that is allowed to just free rise, to just do its own happy little thing, okay? So the other number you need to know, a gallon is 231 cubic inches. And a cubic foot is 12 times 12 times 12, or 1,728. You play with those numbers, you can make it work. Another day, we'll spend more time on this math, but not today. Don't feel like it. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you the difference between what happens when you let foam free rise and then what happens when you trap it. Okay? When we talk about trapping, it means we're going to contain it to a specific volume. Okay? Example of untrapped, open mold. Example of trapped, closed mold. Hope I don't mess this up. Now I got a whole bunch of containers here. I'll figure it out. Closed mold. See? I closed it. Not that hard, right? All right, the difference is if I close it and I keep it closed, then whatever I pour in there is only going to get that big. Okay? If I don't close it, it's going to get as big as it wants. All right, so now we're going to spend a little time showing you what happens. All right, first off, here's an example. These are clamps. Very useful clamps. This is what happens when you don't trap it. Okay? I'm going to switch over to my funky little phone here, because I can. Okay. Now what you need to do for me, Ian, is make sure that I'm right side up. Okay? So, see this? All right. See the line? Well, that line is the top of the mold. Okay? Now here's the same mold. I trapped this one. Okay? Now, I haven't even taken this out yet. If you will please go back to the other camera now. I can use two hands. Bada bing. Okay. All right. I'll just come to you. Trapped. Not trapped. All right. See that? Now, the bigger difference is, if we were able to look carefully at the surface of this, okay, you're going to see that it's got little marks in there, little, kind of grainy things going on. Now, look at the difference. See the surface of that? Okay. How's that? Okay. The surface has more detail. That's what happens. There's a funky term for this. It is referred to as packing. Okay? This is free rise. This is packed. Okay? Free rise. Packed. All right. So, that's that. Now, there's a little bit of mathematics involved in this, but I'm going to keep most of it out. I just don't need to go there today. But basically, if you wanted to make it exactly with as much foam as you needed, no more, no less, you'd need to know the volume of this thing, okay? And from that calculation, from that number, you can calculate how much foam you're going to need. In our particular case, we're going to wing it. Okay, it's what we do. We got a pretty good idea of how much stuff it's going to take to fill that, because I've already done this, and after all, with a little bit of experience, you too will become chemical fakers. All right, so here's the container. I've already dumped 2 ounces of the A component in here. Now, I'm going to dump 4 ounces of the B component, okay, bringing the total volume to 6. Okay, hopefully in the container. Yeah, that'll do. Did I miss? No, what do you know? Okay. Handy dandy engineer guy, pink paddle. Now, you do not want to be nice to foam. You want to be mean to foam. You want to beat the proverbial snot out of it when you're mixing. If you really want to do it right, you're going to double mix it. Okay? Failing to double mix means that instead of doing that, you just don't pour everything out of the cup. That makes absolutely sure that if there's anything not mixed, it's not in the mold. That would be bad. All right, this has got some funky details in it. I'm just going to kind of pour some stuff in there. All right. Good enough. Now, I have cut some vents. You can see these guys? I've got one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. And I just did it with my handy dandy knife, nothing special. All right. I'm just going to use this as a cap. I'm going to push this edge over so that I have got a good solid edge. Alright, you don't want to compress these clamps too much, because what will happen is you will distort the foam. You will distort the mold, which in turn distorts the foam. Okay? So we're just going to let that go now. Now here's what you're looking for. I think I used too much. I hope I used too much, because if so, while this video is being shot, you should start to see little foamies running out the side down here where I've got my vents. So if everything goes well, you're going to see that. Now, the other thing you can kind of sort of watch is if you pay attention to this cup, you should see it rising. Okay? This being an 8-pound foam, right? That means it's 8 pounds per cubic foot. Okay? And let's see, that's going to rise-ish a lot. 5, 6, 7 times, something like that. There's actually a number published somewhere, but it'll rise what it rises to. All right. Now, I'm going to show you another piece. This is a closed mold. Normally, we would pour this in plastic. I poured this one in that same foam. Okay? Right. This is our little tiki guy. Okay? And let's see what we get. Help! Let me out of here! Jane! Get me off this crazy thing! Okay. That's a pretty good amount of detail. Yeah, we got some flashing, but we have some flashing anyway. Okay? Wherever the mold wasn't quite closed up, like up in here, see, he's got a mohawk, right? That worked out okay. But here was a vent, clearly. Here was the pour hole that we would have used if it was plastic. But instead, what I did with this one was something like this. I just had these 2 halves of the mold. I took the 2 plastic pieces, set them on either side, and then I had the clamp on one side. And all that I really did was I dumped the product in one side, closed it up. Before I even stood it up, I slid a block under it, put another one on top, raised it, got the clamp on it. Once the clamp was on it, see the hole? I stood it up. Okay, and then I let it do its thing. Just for fun and giggles, I put my finger over the hole. Didn't seem to matter. It worked. That's all what matters. So that's how I did that. All right, so far, I showed you how easy it is to pour. You see that? I don't know if you can or not, but it's rising. It's rising a lot. Yeah? Okay. Here. Look.
Remember, there was just a smidge in the bottom of that cup, just like the leftovers. And now, of course, there's 200 milliliters in there, or in numbers that some of us understand, somewhere in the general vicinity of 6 ounces, 6 to 8.
So, there you go. All right. So that's lesson kind of sort of number 1. Showed you the difference between what happens when you pack it and when you don't. I poured one. Piece of cake. And perfectly on time, it's a truck. All right, next thing I'm going to show you is another technique that is used when you want to use something light. You don't want to make your piece solid. Instead, you want to make it hollow. Okay? And this is a trick. That's a very loud truck. Or it's very loud people unloading a very loud truck. Okay. When you want to make it hollow, you want to make it strong, okay? You want to make it light just the same. So what we do is this. We get another stick, okay? Get another bucket, right? Again, foam it 15 pounds per cubic foot. And I'm going to set this thing up to where I can see the lines. Okay. Now just see how much I got in here. Yeah, almost 4. That'll do. So 4 ounces, right? Other half, foam at 15. So if we're going to go almost 4, then what I need to do here is go less than almost 8. Modern math, gotta love it. Yeah, okay, that'll do. Shtick. So, we mix up the foam. One reason why I wanted to use something higher density, because I didn't want it to rise a lot. I wanted to make a skin, okay? Now when you're doing this, typically, this is a two-shot thing. You do it the first time, let it sit, not long at all, basically sit long enough for it to solidify of sorts. Then you mix up another batch and you do it again. It's kind of like painting a room, all right? Anytime you're doing slush casting, roto casting, it's not uncommon to make two batches, okay? So that's all I'm going to do, just dump it in there. Now, we'll play the same little silly game with that one as we did with the first. I'm going to come around and show you what I'm doing. All right, can you see? Can you see? Can you see? Okay, so all I'm going to do is roll it, okay? This is almost as bad as watching paint dry, but hopefully you'll get something out of this. But you see how it's just coating the side? Okay, I just keep rolling it and rolling it and rolling it. And I can tell you this takes a little while, but not too terrible. We're not talking hours, we're talking minutes. Okay, I can also tell you that I can feel the heat starting to build up in my hand. Which hand, he says? This one. Okay. So we're just going to do this for a little while. Keep it going. See how if I turn it just right, in fact, if it's all right, I'm going to turn it the other way because then I can see it. Okay. See what it's doing? Basically, I'm just letting it cool up and letting it flow. See that? I hope so. Right? So I'm just letting it flow down the hill. And it's kind of like the hamsters, right? This is one of those hamster wheels. I'm just going to let it keep flowing around and around and around. And as this stuff is doing its magic, it's getting a little bit warmer and a little bit warmer and a little bit warmer. And at some point, it's just going to lock up, okay? Much like when you're doing the old Smoothcast 300 thing, just, you know, it's going to be a liquid, it's going to be a liquid, and then it's going to stop. This stuff acts a little bit kind of sort of like the other stuff, like the 325, the gel cure. Remember we talked about gel cure, we talked about snap cures. Foams are kind of, you could describe them as a gel cure. Now, it's not moving very much now, is it? Okay? You can yeah, a little tiny bit, but not much. So it's almost done. It's almost there. Okay? Yeah, still moving just a smidge. But basically, I can stop if I feel like it. So I think I'll stop. Okay. The point of this, see, I coated it. I did not make it solid. I made it hollow. Okay? And I did the whole thing with how much material? Did it with 6 ounces. Now, doesn't look like much now. But, stay. This is a 2-coater, okay? This is a 2-coat piece. Had a little bit extra in the bottom. If I wanted, I could clean that out. This thing is a rock. It is not going anywhere. If I had a cap on this thing, I would create an edge, right? If I create an edge, then whatever this is, that part is complete. Now, where is this applicable? It's applicable for any time you want something, let's say, big, but you need to keep it light. If you're doing architectural stuff, and I've seen this done on movie sets, they've got these great big old things that might be the size of this tabletop, okay? And the mold might be a foot deep. Well, all they really need is to represent that outside surface. They don't care what the middle looks like. If they poured that thing solid, there'd be one person who'd come out ahead, and that would be me. But let's be fair, that's not right. So instead, they'll do it with stuff like this. And one of the things they might do look kind of like this, except they'll dump it in the bottom, and then they'll go through a trillion paintbrushes and just kind of pull it up, okay? Because that mold might be too big to be able to turn like that. So they'll just get in there with a brush and just pull it up. Make sense? I certainly hope so. So you end up with something like this. It's not very heavy at all. Again, this was 2 batches, so we got maybe 12 ounces in this thing, and quite frankly, it's too thick. Okay? It's heavier than it needs to be. We probably could have done it with 10-pound foam. I used 15-pound. The only reason I did it really with 15 instead of 10 was because I had some 15. It worked. Okay? So, boom, boom. Now, this really leads to the next important topic. Mold release. Foam is not normal stuff. You got to do things right with foam. Okay. What happens is that if you use the wrong mold release with foam, it'll keep the foam from foaming. Okay? Definition of wrong, just about anything with silicone. Okay? So, sadly, universal, bad news. Don't use universal. Ease release 200, bad news. Don't use ease release 200. Running out of room. That'll do. So instead, Sonite. It's wax. Wax base works fine. Okay? Wax base will not affect how the foam works. Now there's a couple different versions of what you can use that are wax, even from Smooth On. So you got Sonite, which is a paste. Okay? But you also have the liquid version called Ease Release 205. Okay? Can you hear it? The liquid. So you could literally dump this stuff in the mold, slosh it around, pour it out if you want, or you can brush it in, or if you want, you can put it in a little sprayer and that's that. So that will work. Just don't forget to let the solvents flash out. Anytime you use a mold release, make sure you wait to let the solvents come out, or those solvents will create really funky little patterns on the surface of that pretty part you thought you made. Okay. Rexco Pardol paste number 2 also works. Wax. I couldn't tell you for sure that Johnson's paste wax would work, but I tell you that in a pinch I'd probably try it. Okay? All right. That's very important stuff. These 2 containers, by the way, this one and the one I made that in, I coated with wax. And the stuff basically came right out. Now, I will tell you that it is not easy to take these things out of a plastic container. So what I did was I took a knife and I went tap, tap, tap all the way around the outside edge, and I peeled it off kind of like peeling an orange, and it came off. That's the end of that. Okay, so we got this, we got this. Let's see where we are. These are great, by the way. Well, isn't that special? I don't know if it's done or not. Do I care? Not really. After all, we can always edit it later. Let's see what we got. Very slowly. I don't even remember where I got this mold. I have no idea. It's coming slowly but surely. Gonna have to just work at this one, ladies and germs. This is a silicone mold. On paper, I didn't need a mold release. In reality, it might not have been a bad idea. But, okay, as you know, everything we do around here is subject to failing. And that's okay. I look at it this way. If I fail, and you don't, that's a beautiful thing. So, we're getting there. We're getting there. 20, 20. You could watch me doing this all day. That'd be really ridiculous. Yeah, okay, moral of the story. Probably not a bad idea to use mold release even in some silicones like this one. Yeah. All right, we're making some progress here. Hooray. This is some Star Wars part, I think. And most of it's going to come out. If it were a rigid foam, there we go, it'd probably come out a little bit better. There you go. I got most of it. Yep, left a little bit in the mold, but not too terrible. Okay. Not bad, not bad. Tore out some here, tore out a little bit here, little piece out here, but you see the detail? Okay. A little bit of mold release would have solved this problem. Hello? Oh, I know who this is. That's that Serpentine, whatever guy it was from Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, hello, Captain. Okay. All right, I'm done fooling around. All right, flexible foam. Very easy to do. Rigid foam. Works just like flexible, except it's rigid, right? And the cool thing about rigid foam is that in the higher densities, you can do things like this and allow yourself to make big stuff at lighter weight and still very strong, okay? Most of the time you're dealing with easy mix ratios, 1-to-1, possibly 2-to-1. Can you color it? Yep, you drop color in it just like you would any old thing. Can you put other things on it? Can you put flakes and whatever in it? Yep, you can do that too. You have to be careful if the flake that you're using doesn't really stick well to urethanes and you're using a flexible, there is that possibility you could bend the product and pop off the flake. So just keep that in mind. Can you paint it? Sure you can paint it. What do you have to use? Flexible paint. Duh. Not that big a deal. You just go to Sherwin-Williams or wherever, go to the automotive stuff, and it's going to work out. So, hey, not a big deal. Oh, one more thing, molds. Be careful. This mold worked pretty good, but it's pretty flexible, okay? And what I noticed when I made that part was rather than the material squirting out the sides like I really wanted it to, it deflected the mold, okay? It pushed the sidewalls of the mold out. That happens when you get a rubber that is too soft. So when you're dealing with foam, you want to use the hardest rubber you can stand for getting that piece out, okay? That's what you do. This is actually a pretty good rubber for doing foam in. It held its shape really, really well. So that wasn't a problem at all. This stuff I think is a 30. This stuff I think is a 15. This is probably too soft for foam. So, okay. Last thing. Maybe. Kenny, can we get it out? I don't know. Maybe? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Hurry up. I got a minute. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Because I like doing this. This is fun. Ta-da! Comes right out of the cup. I'm done. Goodbye.